Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Masochists Marathon. So last episode we were setting up the blue science, and we finished the episode off just doing the advanced circuits, at which point we noticed the copper was virtually non-existent by the time it reaches the end of the bus. So this episode we're going to be dealing with that. First off, we are going to completely cover the rest of this copper patch, which I probably could have got sorted ages ago, but I just get carried away with certain things. So yeah, we're just going to finish covering this off, and hopefully we can get this patch completely mined soon, because yeah, we can remove all these belts running along and try and tidy up these coal belts as well heading into the power, because I like the nice straight lines, and past me will be shot if the power lines or the belts are not straight. No, enough of that. You should never do that. Just stop. Anyway, so we've got the copper patch completely covered. I don't see any bits not fully covered there. And we remove any of the depleted miners on the coal patch and look at doing the same on the rest of the patch here. Because again, we want to get this all mined. This patch has priority over the coal coming from the coal depot. I just wanted to get that depot sorted nice and early, just because then we'll be ready as soon as this patch runs out. We're not going to be running around, running out of power, and now we're relying on lasers. I need to keep well ahead of whatever's going to be happening with our power. And on our way back to the factory, we come and pick up some stone, because I still have to keep manually feeding the production of rail, because I've refused to put stone on the bus so far, but something obviously is going to happen and come up with the new sciences that means I'm going to have to do it. But we feed some stone into there because we are going to be needing some more rails for today's episode. We also picked up some brick as well, which we'll be using in a little while. So the next thing I wanted to do this episode, to follow on from covering up that coal patch, copper patch, me struggling with words beginning with the same letters again. But anyway, I mean, we did cover up the coal patch, but that's not relevant with what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so the other thing I wanted to do this episode is come and set up the first copper outpost, because as soon as that patch is gone, the copper's gone. So we need to really follow it up with some copper. And plus, I wanted to increase the rate in which we were smelting copper anyway, obviously because of the amount of circuits we're now going to be using. And that one belt coming in from that patch isn't going to be enough for more than one smelting column, so it made sense to just get on with the depot, mainly because this copper patch here is so nicely placed near the rails. So we come and clear out any of the biter bases that would cause us any problems. The whole thing with biters at the moment is very up in the air. I don't really know how it's going to work out, because I haven't played with vanilla biters for a while. My last series was using the rampant AI. So what I'm doing now, none of this would really be possible. All of this would have been trashed. But because the vanilla biters don't seem too bothered until there's a load of pollution pissing them off, and I'm trying to keep pollution to an absolute minimum with the pollution settings we have, this is kind of working. But sooner or later, we're going to get a caravan group, and it's going to come and run into a load of stuff and trash it all. So I do need to get on with sorting out the defenses. But I'm trying to focus on getting this iron patch uncovered before I really focus on that. But anyway, we'll just deal with it as it goes. So we set up the copper outpost. I'm having the station vertically like this because there's enough room, and it means not having too many belts bringing the copper down, and it just kind of fits. So we get that all laid out. One thing that really bugged me while recording this hour's playthrough, or past me's recording this hour playthrough, was that I'd updated to 0.15.18 before recording this to get the new HD inserters, but there appeared to be a new feature. If you ran out of a certain item you were placing out, it would immediately give you a blueprint of that item. Now, I believe that's a new feature. I'm pretty sure that's never occurred before, and personally, I found that very irritating. I don't know how it fits into everyone else's playstyle, but at the moment, with no bots or logistics, just placing out ghosts doesn't really help me improve things. Yes, it shows me where things are going to go in the layout. See, it just happened there with the belts, but without logistics bots, that doesn't really help me, because I know the layout in my head and I know where stuff's going to go. So personally, I found that very irritating, and it started filling my inventory up with lots of blueprints, or at least if there's any spaces on my quick bar, it would start filling them up. So I don't know. I think at some point we go into the options and try and turn it off, but I couldn't really find it, and I didn't want to spend much of the recording in the options menu, because that's not very much fun for you guys. So yeah, I've kind of found that a bit annoying. If that's something new in Picker or vanilla, I don't know, but I'm gonna have to find a way to switch it off, or if I can't switch it off, just get used to it, just suck it up. Anyway, we head back to the factory to gather some various bits and bobs. I also gather some batteries so we can carry on making turrets, as next episode I shall hopefully be making the big push to the iron patch, and we can see if I can manage to get there in one recording, because it is quite thick in the sea. Been quite worried about doing it, and it's probably going to push the evolution scale up pretty high, and I'm pretty interested to see how quickly we're going to be up against behemoths. Who knows, it could be pretty soon, and I still get stuck in this whole stalemate situation. I have no idea. I've no idea when I picked these settings at the start of the game whether this whole thing's going to work, but the fun about that is we'll find out. So I come and put in a 4 belt balancer, taking out the 2 on the end because I'm not really fussed with throughput, but I have done some testing with that 4 belt balancer. So as per Zombie's comment on episode 2, if you input 2 full belts into inputs 1 and 2 and block outputs 1 and 4, so only 2 and 3 are being used, you do get a 50% reduction in throughput. Now, I do understand that depending on how you lay everything out, that's only going to happen in very certain situations. And in a lot of my layouts, that's not really going to be a problem. But in certain places, like on the main bus, I would quite like to still use all 5. But yeah, at the moment, I am having a bit of a shortage of resources. But to be honest, is 2 splitters really going to make a massive difference in the short term? I know in the long term, when we start using blue stuff, we're going to be using huge amounts of iron for stuff like blue splitters. And blue underground belts, for example, use 80 cogs, and at 4 iron plates a cog, that's quite a considerable amount of iron. So we've got the copper outpost all laid out and inputting to the chests and the train. So we've come and do the copper depot. So I'm only going to use this layout of depot for a little while. I think I've decided once I get the right amount of resources, I'm going to do bot unloading. I've always liked it. And it's going to be kind of fun with the fact that I'm doing no solar. So it's going to be completely powered by steam and nuclear power. I want to get on with nuclear power as soon as I can, but we'll get into that on another episode. So a bit of a reoccurring theme this episode was I kept not having enough resources to lay out certain things. So we keep having to go back and forth, getting belts, getting inserters, that sort of thing. I've also realised I've not put the last 5 wooden chests down at the copper outpost, so hopefully we get that sorted out in this episode. I don't actually remember, but if we don't, I will go and sort that out straight away at the start of next episode. So we finished laying out the depot, getting all the lovely new inserters in place, which absolutely look absolutely fantastic. Really liking the work there they've done on those. And I believe in the Friday Facts they also stated they're going to be completely reworking the terrain as well to get in some HD textures and maybe change that up a bit as well with the redstone, which I've never actually discovered before. So maybe with this map requiring lots of outposts because of the poor richness, maybe we'll discover some of that. So we get laying out all of the output belts for the copper depot, and we'll then take these up to the top and we'll add in some more smelting areas. I just take a look on the map at various times in the episode, just keeping an eye out for new biter bases popping up, because there have been quite a few new ones coming up lately, so I need to be very careful about that. We also lay this out so there's room for another 4 iron belts before the copper comes along, because we're going to have a lot of iron smelting going on, so we need to throughput a lot of iron. And this is where we come and have a quick look at the controls, because I want to get rid of this whole blueprint thing because it was getting annoying. Thankfully, we've got that zap tool that zaps certain items that we put on the ground. But I couldn't see it straight away, so I kind of leave it because I don't want to be sat in the options for too long, like I stated earlier. We get in a 4 belt balancer for the copper, leaving in those last 2 splitters, I believe, but we only have 1 output from it for now, because we only set up 1 smelting column to begin with. And I like this method here of just having the belt going into the smelting column rather than using a splitter, because it pretty much guarantees saturation, and it's dealt with at the splitter. And to be honest, if you're not, these areas are designed to use a full belt of yellow, so yeah, I kind of like it, but I've not really thought about what's going to happen when we go to red belts, because this layout isn't long enough to completely saturate a red belt. And do I really want to do that? Do I want to keep these at 12 aside until we get to electronic smelters and we add in speed beacons, because then the smelting areas could end up being too long to saturate whichever belt they're using? But I haven't quite decided there. I've used to always build these layouts with 16 aside. I don't know why 16. I think that used to be the number. And and then it was quite easy to saturate a full belt once you get to modules, but I don't really know, to be honest. It's been that long since I've played just a plain vanilla game with no mods that essentially change the game itself. Yeah, I've just stuck for now with the rule that the 12-a-side nicely saturates a yellow belt, and that's really as far as my thinking went. Just running out of belt layer just before we could connect the copper up completely, but that's another smelting column for copper. But another thing I wanted to do this episode was get a couple more on. So first we look at getting a second belt along the bus for copper to obviously bring that smelting into the various areas using copper. But in a bit we do look at adding yet another iron column and I think a third copper smelting column as well. But yeah, one thing I was thinking about while recording, placing these splitters coming off, because of course you're not getting a full saturation and going off to the various areas, is I really want to use priority splitters again. I really do like them. It's just the lane shuffler doesn't really work quite well, but the point where you fully saturate the output before you pass it along the bus, I think is a really great idea, because as we have a look in a bit, we're not getting enough iron going down through to the blue science, and to begin with that's because the belt's not saturating the belt properly, but then that becomes a lack of iron coming through, which we will deal with next episode. We're simply just not mining enough. So I was getting rid of a few of the picker tools there. There's a screenshot tool, which I think I played with earlier, or I play with in a bit, that just takes a screenshot of whatever area you drag it over, which is pretty cool. There's also a tape measure, which I'm guessing measures the number of tiles within the area that you select, which would actually be pretty handy for me, because I'm pretty fussy with my layouts. Everything has to be the right number of tiles apart, and to be honest, it may avoid me getting into those situations where everything's one tile in the wrong place and you end up having to move hundreds or even thousands of objects just because you're absurdly fussy and picky like me about placing things out. But I don't know, there's just something in my head that kind of triggers when things aren't placed out in just a certain way. I know it doesn't have any function on the actual game mechanics itself, but it makes me happy, and I guess that's what playing a game is all about at the end of the day, is making you happy. It's not like work, like Factorio. No, I'm just joking. Factorio is not like work, but it's kind of like fun work. If Factorio was your job, that would be great. I'd love this to be my job, because you just get on with it. You do loads of work. It's fun work. I'm going to stop digging this hole and carry on doing the post commentary and what I should be. So we get the inserters laid out for the first area. We start putting in the various coal inputs and everything you'd expect with the smelting area. And while we're doing that, we get the achievement for producing a certain amount of advanced circuits, which is kind of a sign that area is kind of sped up a bit since we first laid it out. We also completed the laser turret damage upgrade, which is going to really help us next episode. But I also realized something in my calculations where we were doing how much iron for those upgrades we need. I realized where I was wrong. So I made the assumption that laser shooting speed was the same number of science packs as laser shooting damage 3. But it turns out laser shooting speed 3 is actually the same as laser damage 4. So laser shooting speed 3 and 4 both each cost 800 science packs. So yeah, that's where I went slightly wrong in my calculations. So I then have a look at the iron outpost, because I've written down how much that cost. That's 97,000 iron plates for level 3, and then another 97,000 for level 4. We've still got just over 400k iron at the outpost, so I don't really have to worry about that. We should be able to afford it, and we should still be able to afford cracking as well. So we're now doing laser turret shooting speed, which does still go very slowly for various reasons that we'll go into. But to be honest, now I've got the damage, I'm happy to start next episode, and we can let the research carry on while we're doing the shooting. And this episode was kind of a preliminary for that. I've generally just assessed anything that could be a problem next episode, so that we shouldn't get interrupted while doing it. I've also just noticed a misplacement of a long-handed inserter. But yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, nothing will interrupt us doing the biter slaying next episode. We won't have to come back to the factory for any reasons. I'm going to double check that just so I don't have to eat my words before recording next episode. And we put in the third belt for copper, but to be honest, that's not really what the shortage is now. It looks like it's now going to be iron. So we have a look at that in a moment. But one thing I wanted to talk about is I had a couple of problems making this episode that I haven't had for a little while. One of which, my mic would randomly start clicking in certain takes and not others. I had a reset of everything and it seems to have stopped doing it. But again, I think it might be down to the age of my mic being a little bit old. So I have had a few problems where I've taken a 5-minute take. There's crackles through the whole thing. I've done the whole reset and I've had to redo it all, hoping I don't miss out any of the interesting stuff I happen to come up with, because I don't script absolutely everything. I just have a general rough list of things that I could talk about in the episode. But the main problem I had started about a minute and a half ago. There was a very slight tick in the desktop sound, but basically on the track that records the game sound, it literally just stopped and then started again about 10 seconds before the end of the recording. So occasionally OBS does this weird thing where the track will just randomly stop recording. While I'm babbling on about this, I'm not going to hide this fact. Before I did get the layout of the bus completely wrong, and I started splitting things off a tile above, so I have to come and move these underground belts and get this all lined up properly. But anyway, yeah, so the way I record with OBS is track 1 is all the sound, so both the game sound and my microphone, and then for editing purposes, track 2 is the game sound and track 3 is the microphone. Obviously, when I'm doing Factorio videos, I'm not using the microphone, so usually I turn it off, but sometimes I forget to. So if track 2 stops working, the game sound, I have to use track 1. And if my microphone was on and I coughed or whatever, that might be in there. Or if I was just talking to my cat, because, yeah, I'm weird like that. But anyway, in my profile for recording the Factorio gameplay, I should probably change the Factorio profile so that it's just recording game sound, and maybe have 2 tracks doing it, so there's always a backup, because I don't really need my microphone for that unless I'm doing direct live gameplay in a stream or whatever, but that's in a separate profile anyway. So thinking about that, I may actually go and set that up. Anyway, while I've been ranting about those problems, I've come and had a look trying to lay this area out a little bit better for the electronic miners, because it wasn't really working very well. When I've got some upgraded belts, this area may work a little bit better, but to be honest, I'm still not happy with it. I don't like belts going all over the place like this, because it's just a bit messy. But I wanted the input for iron for the cogs to be right next to them, and then the output using the longer handed inserters, because they have to do slightly less work. But then the issue becomes the input of iron itself, so I have a go at trying to get that working. But to be honest, like I said, I'm not really happy with this whole area anyway, so when it actually matters, I'll probably do it properly. But right now, the issue is just the throughput of iron, so it doesn't really matter if I sort it out. But I stick in another balancer here just to try and help things. But again, this might be a nice place for some priority splitters. I don't know what it'd be interesting to hear other people's opinions on priority splitters, but personally I think they're quite handy, but we'll see. But the main issue is we've just not got enough iron coming through, which is what we're going to deal with, or hopefully deal with next episode. We're going to try and expose that iron patch up to the northwest and get an outpost set up, but until I actually try and go and do it, we won't know. And when I do go to do it, that will be my first take, and whatever happens, we shall keep in the recording. Either way, we shall see. So the next thing I wanted to have a look at before we run off and do some biter slaying is just make sure that Iron Outpost 1 is completely covered in miners. So we come and take out some depleted ones, because we haven't been here for a while, so quite a number of miners have finally depleted. We extend the 4 belts of mining all the way to the end of the patch, so we get those laid out, but we also get some miners on the side section as well, and just crudely connect them up, because I really couldn't be bothered with changing the balancer completely. And to be honest, once these start to deplete, all the belts will eventually empty out into the train. And while we're running off doing slaying, I'm not really too fussed, because I don't have to look at it. Again, running out of belts and having that blueprint space out. I'm pretty sure it's a new function that came in with the update. I just don't know if it came with Picker or in the vanilla game, so it'd be interesting to hear if anyone knows anything about that. But I am going to try and switch that off. But that didn't take too long, getting the outpost completely covered. So I was reluctant at the start of the episode to build some stack inserters for the depot, but I then changed my mind. It doesn't cost too much, and we've still got quite a bit of iron available, so I decided to build at least enough stack inserters for the depot. I also mess around with the power poles again for that area, just trying to make a bit more space for inserters, just to try and increase that iron input. But as you can see, the iron belts pretty empty again, and that was just because of the delay of the train. And I could set a timer on the train to bring it in more often, but to be honest, there's going to be less iron in it, so we're going to be having gaps either way. The problem is simply we're just not mining enough in the first place, so that's going to be my solution. But I figured some stack inserters will speed up the unloading of a train, because every time a train comes into the outpost, all the chests are actually full. So unloading the train will speed it up a little bit. I could also make some for the outpost as well, but considering the fact that that outpost isn't going to last very long, and once we get to Iron Outpost 2, we'll have 2 trains running, so we'll have plenty of iron coming through, and they'll always be full, hopefully, as well. But I will need to clear quite a large area around the Iron Outpost 2 to make sure no pollution are hitting biters and causing attacks. But we'll see how the slaying goes. It could go really well and I clear a nice big area and push the evolution scale up really high. It could go really badly and we only have enough space for just a few miners, and then the episode after we can work on improving that throughput of iron. But yeah, either way, the evolution scale is going to go up quite rapidly. We looked at it near the start of the episode, then we looked at it again just a moment ago. It was at 0.663, so we're going to be hitting 0.7 very quickly. Past me not noticing those wooden chests still need to be put in place. Pretty sure I still need to go and do it, so I'll get that sorted. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what comes with 0.7 in the biter scale. It'll be interesting to find out which point behemoths actually come in, because I don't actually know. So we get some stack inserters unloading the train to at least speed this up, ready for the new train coming in. And I don't really like these belt unloading. See, in Bob's, you can use the adjustable inserters to decide which side of a belt are inserted places. But with this, I've never really found a layout I actually quite like. So I come and put in these belt balancers. Again, I don't really like them. And plus, I'm not even sure if you actually need them. But one of the things I was noticing with the belts is once the chests get emptied, depending on which inserter's putting onto which side of the belt, it was kind of getting clogged on one side and not unevenly unloading them. So I personally kind of feel like these are necessary, but they're probably actually not, and I'm just wasting resources putting them in place. But either way, that's going to be all we have time for. Next episode, we're going to be hopefully exposing that iron patch. But thank you so much for watching. I do hope you have enjoyed, and please do come and join me in the next episode. Bye-bye.